Right now, there's been so much male bashing and stuff going on, so we're kind of in this, and like I heard you say something, men are dogs. Women are pretty much taught that men are dogs. And so, there is no compassion for men from women at all, from what I'm seeing. Because they've been conditioned to think that men aren't good people. And unfortunately, they've been conditioned to believe that they are just naturally good people. And it isn't true. I found that it's the exact opposite reasons that we've thought about affairs for women. Women actually seek out affairs because they want to have sex. They don't want to have sex in their marriages. And men seek out affairs because they want to feel some type of love, affection, and that's how, there's chemicals that are released when we have an orgasm that create pretty pleasant feelings and bonding and attachment, and a lot of marriages don't have any sex going on at all. So there isn't very much bonding in the marriage.
So that original audio recording came from author Michelle Langley. She's responsible for writing the book Women's Infidelity, and I recommend a lot of you guys, and even some of you women, check out that novel and read her books, read her blog posts, because they really go into depth about how we've been lied to as a society in general about women's infidelity. And for the most part, a lot of us men and women grow up thinking that men are dogs, men are the ones that are responsible for the majority of the cheating, and that men cheat because they're just disgusting pigs, when in fact, statistics and surveys and the article I'm about to share with you guys proves otherwise. And it proves the fact that we as a society have been lied to about men, and a lot of women grow up thinking that men are dogs by whether it's their aunt, their grandma, their mom, whoever it is that's been hurt by men, right? When in fact, it's actually the other way around, and the majority of women cheat because the sex in their relationship is not as good as they thought it was. So we're going to check out this article. It's really informative. It's going to open a lot of your guys' eyes to what goes on behind the scenes that you might not necessarily think about. If you're new to this channel, this will be a very eye-opening video in regards to women's infidelity and why women are actually just as, if not more, promiscuous, and they decide to step out of marriage more so than men. Let's dive into this article. All right, so here's the article. It is titled "A Strong Libido and Bored by Monogamy: The Truth About Women and Sex." And this is the author right here, Joanna Moorhead. So it is written by a woman, all right? So the original audio recording was by a woman who specializes in relationships and marriage and infidelity. And this woman right here wrote this article. So it is not written by a man. It is not written by a misogynist, as some of you guys claim that I am and other men that do this content. No, these are women that are speaking up about this. It is not just men claiming these things without statistics or facts. When a heterosexual couple marries, who is likely to get bored of sex first? The answer might surprise you. What do you know about female sexuality? Well, if you're red pill, you should already know about female sexuality. But if you're new, this will explain it. Whatever it is, chances are, says Wendy Martin, it's all wrong. Most of what we've been taught by science about female sexuality is untrue, she says, starting with two basic assertions: that men have a stronger libido than women, and that men struggle with monogamy more than women do. We as red pill men understand this because most of us came from relationships where we were cheated on, or there was a man on the side that our significant other was messing with on the side. Martin pulls no punches. Her best-selling memoir, Primates of Park Avenue, cast her as an anthropologist observing the habits of her Upper East Side neighbors. She claimed, among other shockers, that privileged stay-at-home mothers were sometimes given a financial quote-unquote wife bonus based on their domestic and social performance. The book caused a furor and is currently being developed as a TV series, with Martin as an exec producer. Her new book, out this week, should be equally provocative, entitled Untrue. It questions much that we thought we knew about women's sexuality. Her starting point is that research into human sexuality has been historically overwhelming male-centric. Notable sexologists, starting with Carl Frederick Otto Westphal, are mostly male. You have to scroll through another 25, including Sigmund Freud and Alfred Kinsley. Mind you, I have no idea how to pronounce these names, so if that came across as strange, you know what? I don't know how to pronounce them. Before you arrive at the female name, Mary Calderone, who championed sex education. And even in the subsequent 30 names, there are only 5 women, including both Virginia Johnson and Cheryl Height. All these men made certain assumptions about women's sexuality. It's no surprise that it was Height who revolutionized thinking on female orgasm, including that it was not dysfunctional to fail to climax during intercourse. Crucial to say, says Martin, it has been the work of Rosemary Basson, who released the spontaneous desire, the kind sexologists had measured for years, that was only one type of relevant desire, and that responsive or triggered sexual response is much more important for women. Measured on that scale, it turns out that women are in fact every bit as sexually arousable as men. New findings show that women reported similar intensities of desire and arousal to men, and, quote, a real shift in thinking, end quote, about females and monogamy. We are taught that men are the ones who needed variety, but the exact opposite turns out to be the case, says Martin. All right, guys, this also has to do with hypergamy and how we are now discovering hypergamy and how prevalent hypergamy is, how hypergamy will never fail. She is always looking to monkey branch to the highest value male that she can obtain. She's never just satisfied with the man she's currently with. She's always looking for an upgrade. Over-familiarization with a partner and desexualization kills women's libido. So if she gets to know you more, if she's more comfortable, like I said, if you live a boring lifestyle, you go to work, you come home, you watch TV, you're always on time, you never switch things up, she's going to get bored of you. Yes, this is the backwards narcissistic thinking of many women. Not all, but a lot of women get bored. That's why they like these drama shows. They like these reality TV shows because they like that inconsistency. They like that little bit of tension, that desire, that longing to wonder, what is he up to? Is he talking to someone else? What is he doing without me there? We used to think it's only men who became sexually bored after marriage. Turns out that's not true. It's when women get married that it's detrimental to their libido, right? But it's funny because a majority of women push for marriage. They're the ones that are constantly trying to get married, asking where this relationship is headed. But at the same time, they don't understand what's good for them. The fact that if we do decide to get married to you, well, it turns out that the majority of women, once they're married, that's game over. They got what they wanted. So there's no reason to continue to be virtuous. There's no reason to continue to be a good wife or a good partner and be supportive and be submissive, be feminine. Martin isn't here to talk about her own relationship, but for the record, she's 53, has been married for 18 years, still lives in New York, and has two sons aged 17 and 10 who are predictably enough, quote, mortified, end quote, at what their mother writes about. She hopes her work will help validate the feelings of the next generation of young women. It's not about giving them permission to cheat, not even giving them permission to refuse monogamy, but I hope it does give them permission to feel normal if they don't like monogamy. And I believe we are heading towards a more polyamorous, polygamous society, and this backs up my claims. Because that's the central fallacy. The belief that monogamy is harder for men than for women. In fact, argues Martin, the exact opposite is the case. Women crave novelty and variety and adventure, at least as much as men, maybe more. She talks me through what she says is the classic pathway for women when they marry or commit to one heterosexual partner long term. The research has so far concentrated on heterosexual couples. More work is needed on gay women's sex lives. So then she gets into the pathway about how a typical relationship begins and how it slowly begins to fall apart. She says, a couple lives together, their libidos are matched, and they have a lot of sex, all right? This is considered the honeymoon stage. This is the first 3 months usually of a relationship, give or take. Could be shorter, could be a little bit longer, but it's usually the first 3 months are the best months. But after a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years, what tends to happen is that women's desire drops more quickly than a man's. At that point, the woman thinks, I don't like sex anymore. But what in fact is happening is that she is having a hard time with monogamy because women get bored with one partner more quickly than men do. And you can also throw in social media and dating apps, all these men that validate women and are beta male orbiters that are in her DMs that are constantly hitting her up, whether it's her work boyfriends or guys that are just in her everyday life that surround themselves around her and want her attention. They're constantly validating her. And when you have all these men throwing attention at you, more than likely with the law of propinquity, you are going to feel comfortable with these men that are in your everyday lives, and you are going to be more likely to cheat on your partner. So women are socialized to believe that they've gone off sex, when in fact they're craving variety. Instead of being the brake on passion, says Martin, the female half of a long-term partnership is the key to a more adventurous and exciting sex life. What it's all about, she explains, is the existence of the only entirely pleasure-seeking organ in the human repertoire, the clitoris. Women evolved to seek out pleasure. Women are multiply orgasmic. Women's biology sets them up to seek out pleasure, says Martin. The clitoris has a very important backstory about female human sex, which is that our sex evolved for the purpose of adventure. Another element in the mix, she says, was finding out that a third of women who are in having extramarital relationship say their marriage or long-term partnership is happy or very happy. So we need to understand that women aren't just seeking variety because they're unhappy, they're seeking it because they need variety and novelty. God, this is killer. What does all this mean in a practical sense for our sex lives? Martin doesn't like the word cheating. She prefers to use the term step out, but we all know that's actually cheating. She just doesn't want to say that. And that's what some women decide to do. No, that's still cheating. But it's not the only solution. There are many women who are suffering but do not want to leave the relationship or to step out. And they've not yet discovered vibrators, says Martin. I can't tell you how many women have told me they've never had a vibrator. There's a generation in their 40s and 50s who missed the vibrator revolution and never caught up. And there are all these new vibrators out there. Men, this is another point that I want to hit on. A woman constantly needs pleasure sexually, okay? Like they're talking about she can have multiple orgasms. Men, for the most part, we can have 1 to 2, and then for the most part, it takes a little bit of time for us to get that sensation back, and once we have our orgasm, that's about it. We're done. With these women, however, on the other hand, they constantly need that stimulation, which is why they have vibrators, which is why they constantly need more foreplay, which is why they constantly need you to get them aroused and for a longer period of time, and they can continue to go even after you might have already been done as a man. So do you really want to have to be responsible for pleasing a woman like this constantly and having to keep up with her sex drive when we as men are not built for that? And a lot of these women feel like they need multiple partners and multiple ways to arouse themselves through other men besides just one man. And anything new you can introduce will make a big difference to your sex life. Another way forward can be for a couple to open up their relationship in some way and invite someone else in. And she has other ideas up her sleeve that seems a lot less risque than going to a zip wire, taking up dance lessons, or going scuba diving together. Why does that help? Research on the neurochemicals has found that our sexual desire is triggered when we do something new with a long-term partner. A thrilling activity is ideal. It can give you a wash of hormones that make you feel new to each other again. Guys, if this doesn't scream that monogamy is dying, it is completely dying. Indeed, part of the narrative seems to be that men are too quick to settle down for the unusual, which makes sense now we know they're not the only ones who are bored. But opening up the conversation about what else they could try can relight the fire. The trick for them is to keep on and on asking. Men really caring about what women want sexually makes a huge difference. You might need to have the conversation over and over, and women might keep saying they're happy with the little things as they are, but keep asking, and eventually women will open up about their sexual fantasies. We find that their menus are more varied than men's. Men are shocked, but also gratified and thrilled when they find out how sexually exciting we can be when we get past the inhibitions that have been socialized into us. If you haven't watched my 360i DNI video, I basically talk about how a lot of women have these fantasies. I won't say the word grape, but a lot of these women have certain fantasies with certain high-class men, certain men that they deem good-looking, or certain high-powered individual men that take advantage of them. A lot of women have these certain desires to be taken advantage and be roughed up and be treated like property by these particular men. However, on the flip side, if you are an average looking man and you don't get her aroused as much and you don't have that kind of power and control over her mind and her fantasies, she will me too you. Paradoxically, there's been a parallel shift in attitudes towards extramarital affairs and divorce alongside the growing studies into women's sexuality. Martin quotes the U.S. statistics in 1976. Fewer than half of well-educated Americans thought having an affair was always wrong. By 2013, that figure was 91%. We've become a lot less tolerant of infidelity in recent years, says Martin, and meanwhile, divorce has become much more common. A large number of people in the 1970s who thought affairs were okay thought divorce was wrong, end quote. So at the precise moment, science reveals women have the biggest need to be sexually adventurous. Society clamps down on infidelity. And that, says Martin, is hugely significant. The way we feel about women who refuse monogamy is an important metric for how we feel about equality. She's talking, she says, about women who openly refuse monogamy by being polyamorous. The overwhelming story we buy into is that men who cheat are just men being men. Women who step out, that's actually considered cheating, are far more likely to be criticized and shamed. Ultimately, though, they're challenging something very deep in society's expectations of them, and perhaps their stance is the most radical female stance of all. So to wrap this article up, we as a society have been lied to about women's infidelity, and a lot of times we're told as men that we're dogs, that we're the ones that cheat, that we're the ones that are looking for sex all the time, while women on the other hand are sugar and spice, everything nice, and they can never do this. They're just at home folding clothes, doing laundry, and cooking and cleaning, when in fact they're the ones that get bored much easier than men do. And they have stronger libido and higher sex drives, and they actually get bored faster than men, but they're the ones that are pushing for relationships and marriage for the most part. So this is where there's a disconnect in society, and this is why I believe eventually polygamy will take over the society. And I believe that there will be 7 women to 1 man, just like it says in the Bible. And all these things that were prophesied in scripture are beginning to slowly come true. So I just want to share this article with you guys. The link will be in the description if you want to read this article on your own. You want to make sure that you're fact checking everything that I'm reading on this channel. I will link it in the description. You can check it out for yourself. Let me know your thoughts on this article as well. I found this pretty fascinating. And unfortunately, it's women like this author that, while she's exposing the truth about female nature, she's basically saying that women shouldn't be shamed for stepping out of marriage. So she's giving them a pass at stepping out because society views it as wrong. So this causes women to step out because we as a society have shamed them. So she's just making an excuse, basically, is what she's trying to do here, and justify the fact that women are cheating just as much, if not more, than men. And they initiate 75% of divorces, and that is a fact. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you enjoyed this read. Make sure you like the video, share the video to anyone that needs to hear this message, and hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Turn on all notifications so you don't miss another episode. Love you all. Stay blessed.